Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make simple paper clay molds using paper clay. This can be purchased at any craft store. These are really easy to make and they do a lot of justice for your upcycled furniture pieces. So I hope you can learn a little bit from this video and let's get started. So first I selected the keyhole patterns that I wanted. I made a couple of them beforehand with silicone, but then I decided that I just wanted to make them with paper clay, and this is the paper clay that I've been using. It's a white paper clay mold material. You can get it at craft stores, you can get it online. So this one I have is white and it's a non-odorous one. There are some that are really smelly, so just be careful which ones you buy. So the reason I went with the paper clay molds like with this material is because my drawers are curved, and so I have to put these on fairly damp. They do dry fairly quickly. They dry solid within an hour or two kind of thing, but I wanted to shape them to the drawer, so that is why I'm doing them with this material instead of the silicone material. So I roll a piece of it about the size of um, the, the mold that I want to press it into, and I squash that into the piece. I generally try to put a piece of paper clay about as big as the actual design itself in, whether it's rectangular or circular, and then I just keep pressing from end to end. The reason I do it this way is because if you try to put a bunch of little pieces together inside one of these molds, so say I'm using 5, 6, or 8 little chunks to fill the top and bottom there, what happens sometimes is when you go to take the mold out, it will crack where you have placed those extra little bits. So I try to use a big chunk of it and then just take off the excess. So here I'm pressing it into the mold. I generally take a spatula once I get it to this point, and I will press it into the mold with the back of my spatula before I smooth it out to remove it. So that's just pressed in with my fingers for now. Now I'll take the spatula, it doesn't matter what size you use. And in this case, I didn't press it in more with the spatula, I just started to take it off. So what I do is I take it off in about 4 sections. I'll take the one end off, and then I'll turn the piece. I always save the extra and put it back in the container, and I keep the container slightly moist with either a baby wipe or a piece of paper towel, and that just keeps it all from drying out. And then I'll turn the piece and I will remove the next portion, turn it again, and just keep removing the excess to where I get to where it's almost the entire proper shape. You can see here it's not quite right yet. So then I will take it again. It's not quite right, so we need to take a little bit more off. I'll take it again and I'll just remove more so that it's a really tight mold. It's level, it's got no bits sticking out of the sides, and it's a perfect impression of the mold. And the more perfect you get it, the easier it is to deal with it later. You don't have to do much, if anything at all, to it. Now I'm pressing it in with my spatula before I remove it. Just a note, when you do these, take a little bit of cornstarch and powder the molds, because especially new molds, the clay will stick really quite hard to the mold itself. So I find it easier just to take a little bit of cornstarch and press it in, or powder the mold itself, rub it around with a little brush, and then take off the excess. So here you can see the mold is really well shaped. There's a little bit of haloing, those little feathery bits, but those can be removed easily by taking them off again with the spatula. And then we're almost ready to remove this one. Here I'm just taking off those little tiny last feathery bits. So we're taking that off, getting it just right. You don't have to be quite this fussy. If you take the mold out and it has a little bit of feathering around the edge, you can just press it in with your finger as well. This is a really finicky mold because it has really tiny ends on it, really tiny finial ends on it. So now I'm getting ready to take it out, and what I do is I crack the mold one side or the other. I crack it just to loosen it, and I'll do that on the widest parts of the mold and also at the smallest parts of the mold. And I just try to crack it away from the mold itself, and then I start to press the mold by bending the mold and then gently pulling on the paper clay. And if I keep pressing the mold, it pushes the paper clay out a little bit, and that's how you can get a nice clean an impression. There I had a little bit of a snag at the end, so I just press it back in and reattach it. Like I said, my drawers are curved, so I want to actually put these on my drawers. I don't want to let them dry very long because I want to put them on my drawers so that they can dry on the drawers. And I use a glue called Titebond Quick and Thick. You can see it in the background there to the left. It's an excellent glue for putting these on. I have had these things seal so well to the wood that it feels like they'll never ever come off. So I'm not afraid of shipping these and having these molds on them because I know they're on there very securely. So there's my curved drawer. And I have marked out the old keyhole areas, so you can see there's a keyhole, or not a keyhole, a drawer hole. And what I've done is I've marked 4 directions because I want to find the center. Once I get the mold over top of that hole, I won't be able to see where center is anymore. So I'm using these guide marks, if you can barely see them in gold there, as my guide to where center would be. The last thing you want is to have one paper clay mold on in one place and then at the other end of the drawer it be completely wrong. So we want to avoid that. So right now I am putting Titebond glue a little bit on a little plate, and you can use a brush, an artist brush, you can use your finger, you can use a little spatula or anything you want. And here's my guides. Again, I'm showing you my guides. So the center is going to be covered up. I won't be able to see that. And then these gold marks I've made will be my guide to show me where to place those 4 points. So there's my glue. Titebond Quick and Thick in the blue bottle. Excellent stuff. It doesn't cost too much and it goes a long way. You don't have to use very much at all. There I'm putting it on with a sponge brush, but I really don't recommend that. It's probably easiest to use just a really coarse brush or your finger. Your finger works really well, but it will get a little bit messy, so be prepared with some baby wipes to wipe it off. So there I'm lining it up with the gold markers. And now you see why I've got north, south, east, and west lined up with my gold markers. And so I know the center of that mold is where my knob hole will go. And once this is completely dry, I will drill a proper hole through that center. But before it is completely dry, I'm going to poke a nail through the center so that I know where I should drill it out in the end before I put my knobs back on. And so here we're going to the other side with the gold markers that I've put there, and my drawer hole is in the center, and I'm lining up north, south, east, and west points. So the center of that applique is the center where my knob hole will be. And I will poke, like I said, a nail through there before it dries so that I know. And I'll poke it through from the back. If I poke it through from the back, it automatically goes to where the nail hole or the screw hole used to be. So now I'm just tapping it on there and pressing it, not enough to press the mold flat, but just enough to allow the glue to really seal to the wood. So once these are on the piece, they will be left to dry overnight. In this case, we have a heater drying them, but they will be left to dry overnight before any painting is done to them. You want them to be really, really well applied and dried. If you find a little gap between the paper clay mold and the wood before you do your painting, you can apply a little bit of caulking in there and just gently squeeze it in. And that would be how you do a paper clay mold. I hope that helps you. There's so many different varieties, different styles that you can mix and match and add together. So it's really a beautiful addition to any piece of upcycled furniture. Thanks guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe. You can catch us also on our website, flendranceinteriors.com. You can connect to our YouTube, our Instagram, and our Facebook page there. And we're also on eBay at Flendranceinteriors. Thanks guys, and we'll talk to you soon.